the Russians failed to achieve air superiority because having a lot of aircraft doesn't automatically give you superiority. The Russians failed to knock out Ukrainian air defenses. They failed to knock out all the Ukrainian bases. And so the Ukrainians still have capability. And actually, they're not yet generating maximum number of sorties, I think because they're trying to preserve as many pilots as they can for what's going to be needed here in the next few months.
Where are we now after a week's tour of Europe? How many planes are the Ukrainians after?
Well, look, it does feel like we're making progress towards an agreement to finally provide this capability to Ukraine. The capability that Ukraine requires is twofold. Number one, they need the ability to get long-range precision fires that can isolate the Crimean Peninsula and then make it untenable for Russian forces. So whether that's F-16s, drones, ATACMS, or other long-range precision weapons, that's number one. And then number two, I anticipate that they're going to launch an armored force penetration, if you will, of the linear Russian defenses kind of in southeastern Ukraine. And so having close air support for that would be an essential component. So getting the F-16s to them would be part of that capability.
Ben, what's the current state of the Ukrainian Air Force?
Actually, the Ukrainian Air Force has performed well above what most people would have expected, given the superiority that Russia had at the start of this in terms of sheer numbers and in terms of Russian air defense capabilities. But the Russians failed to achieve air superiority because having a lot of aircraft doesn't automatically give you superiority. The Russians failed to knock out Ukrainian air defenses. They failed to knock out all the Ukrainian bases. And so the Ukrainians still have capability. And actually, they're not yet generating maximum number of sorties, I think because they're trying to preserve as many pilots as they can for what's going to be needed here in the next few months. So to say it shorter, they're in better shape than I would have expected at this point.
That's intriguing. The issue here is twofold when it comes to delivering these planes, isn't it? Poland's president has ruled out the possibility of his country delivering jets by themselves, saying that it would have to be a move that they agreed with allies. So there's the financial implications that we've heard from the Treasury and from the Prime Minister here in the UK. But there's also the practical implications of what that would mean in terms of escalation from a NATO point of view.
Yeah, the talk about escalation, I think, is a self-imposed red line, or we are deterring ourselves. The Russians have nothing else which they can do to escalate other than to use a nuclear weapon. And I just think it is extremely unlikely they would do it. They get zero benefit or advantage of it. Their nuclear weapons are more useful to them when they don't actually use them. And I think they take President Biden's warning of catastrophic consequences very seriously. Of course, they do have thousands of nuclear warheads. They don't care how many innocent people they kill, but they get no advantage. There's zero positive outcomes for Russia if they finally do use a nuclear weapon. Now, in terms of cost, of course, these would be expensive, but in the great scheme of things, when we're talking about the cost of preserving the international rules-based order, of stopping Russian aggression and not allowing Russia to be rewarded for what they've done, I mean, it's kind of hard to put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
And of course, the deterrent effect towards China. If China sees that we're not willing to do what it takes to defeat Russia, then I don't think they will be very impressed with anything that we say about Taiwan or the South China Sea.
But Ben, this would have to be coordinated, wouldn't it? From a point of view that so many different types of planes require different types of training to get them into Ukraine from different parts of Europe and the US. So we can't just give them a load of planes without giving them the training on how to operate them.
No, you're exactly right. And the same is true of armored vehicles, of howitzers, all of these things. The coordination is twofold. Number one, what you alluded to earlier, the decision to do something like this should be something that all of the allies agree, because maintaining the unity of the alliance and the donor nations has been an important part of the effort thus far. And so it makes sense that one nation on its own would not just say, well, the heck with it, we're going to go ahead and provide this anyway. Not out of fear of escalation, but out of concern over maintaining cohesion. On the other side of the coordination, you're right, having one platform, I'm an Army guy, by the way, so
Yeah.
I've got no skin in this other than loving air power. Having one platform like the F-16, which is almost ubiquitous around Europe. So you've got a lot of capability, you've got a lot of ability to train, and maybe as important, you've got a lot of maintenance capability. That would help deliver this capability for Ukraine.